So here's what we're going to do. Let me talk a little bit about why this topic. First of all, I already mentioned that a lot of people are feeling disconnected right now due to the various lockdowns, the social distancing, all of those other things, even travel. Because for myself personally, just in a very recent weeks, my spouse was traveling for work and was distant from us. And so I've had a lot of practice in using distance communication tools. And that's one of the reasons why I felt I might be equipped to be able to share this with you. Video helps you to reconnect with people and to connect on a different level. So it's different than just picking up the phone and calling because you can literally see the person. It's almost like it's the next best thing to physically being in a place with that person. So that's one of the reasons why so many people are really embracing video now. But there are some things that you need to consider if you're just starting to use video to connect. So I want to talk a little bit about some of those nuances and give you some tips that will help you, okay? And again, I'm also watching for your comments to make sure that I answer any questions. So I hope that this is going to be good for you and that you'll find it helpful. All right, let me pull up something because I want to share this with you. This is the first thing before we start diving into any type of devices or equipment and all that other stuff. What I want to share is this with you. I want to make sure you understand this one point, and I'm going to pull it up on a little slide here. So many of you may be familiar with this whole concept because a lot of us, especially if you went to college, were introduced to a concept called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And what it basically is talking about is the fact that there are certain basic needs that we all must have. And as we complete or find ourselves getting what we need at a certain level, starting from the bottom and going up, then we're able to go ahead and tap into the next level. And so I just wanted to point this out because I think this is important. What I don't want to recommend that you do is to start going out and buying a bunch of different equipment and investing in packages and new software and things for video. The point for this particular live stream is to share free tools with you, free tools, because some of you are in this scenario right now where you are seeking out basic things like food. We're running and racing against time when it comes to finding grocery store items, right? Some of you may be struggling with sleep. Some of you may be struggling to find shelter. If you are, because I've been told that some of these live streams are going to other places that I don't even know they're going. So if you happen to be any of those folks, then I want you to really concentrate first on the physical well-being. The second thing is safety, right? Safety. And Rodney put a note that said Maslow knew the power of love. Absolutely. And love and belonging is where we are when we talk about this whole connection thing. So safety, I want to make sure you're safe. So beyond and before you ever get into or dive into going out and getting other tools and software and apps, please make sure that you're physically well and that you have the safety needs met. But that love and belonging piece that you saw emphasized in the pink, that's where this whole connection thing fits in. And this is where a lot of people are struggling because they may feel a little bit okay in the first two levels, but you're struggling with this isolation and this feeling of disconnect right now. And so what I wanted to do with this live is to really just provide you with some tools to help you to connect without impacting or creating strain in the physical and safety areas. So this is not a sales pitch of any type kind. I'm not selling anything. I'm not promoting anything. I'm simply teaching. And I want to encourage you to take advantage of the time that we're in because we're in a time, there's never been a time like this where we've had access to so much technology and to things that can help us to make those connections on a free scale, right? So do not go out, rush out and try to purchase a bunch of stuff. The purpose of this is really to provide you with some free tools and apps. All right, so the next thing we're going to do, let me go ahead and scoot on over because I want to talk about my personal experience really quickly so that you understand why this is important to me. One of the things that I will tell you that I experienced years ago, like back in the 90s, my husband and I, if I can get my screen to pop up, there we go. My husband and I, early on in the 90s, when we got married, we were separated, we were remote. So he lived in Asia for about a year, our first year of marriage, while I was in Florida. And so back then, and this is just bringing home the whole point of where we are right now, technology wise, and why it's okay and important for you to really kind of move your mental state to seeing what's available to you. We were driving up phone bills. We were talking on the phone internationally and had phone bills, thousands of dollars, right? Of phone bills, which right now you say, oh, that's ridiculous. Why would anybody do that? But back then, that was the only way that we could communicate overseas. And eventually, when Skype came along, Skype became like this wow thing. Skype is going to be one of the tools that I'm going to talk about, but it became this tool, this way for us to be able to bridge communication and to be able to talk to each other without the expense. And then there were other tools that showed up. And now we all have these beautiful things here, these smartphones, right? That also allow us to stay in touch and connected with people. And again, if the phone is great for you, then please continue to just use the phone and make your phone calls. But if you like to have another level of connection, I want you to be encouraged to try video. So that's why I'm going to share these three devices, or three apps rather, with you, um, so that you can use more video. This is the thing right now. My husband and my family and I, we all still have a bit of a remote relationship when it comes to our careers. And so even today, we use conferencing lines, Skype, WhatsApp is another one that we're going to talk about. So we use whatever we can to stay in touch, and having that access to video gives us the ability to be able to do so without spending a ton of money. Again, like we used to, because we used to spend a lot of money on some phone calls, which was crazy. We don't have to do that now. So here's the other thing, the final thing I want to share with you before we dive into the three. You probably are thinking, well, you know what? My baby girl, she taught me how to use my phone to be able to do FaceTime, right? Okay. So if someone has taught you how to do that, grandma or auntie or whoever's watching, and you're able to do that proficiently, you can do that easily, then I do not want you to change what you're doing. But if you're just now trying to figure these things out, there's something to note, and that is that surely there are apps that are built within our smartphones. If you have a newer phone, say within the past 3 to 4 years, especially, if you have a newer phone, you're probably going to have either an Android phone or an iPhone. And some of you may have Google Pixel or other types of phones. So the important thing to note here is that when you have different, what they call operating systems, so Samsung has an Android operating system, the iPhone has an Apple operating system. When you have those two different systems, they're not always going to communicate well, and meaning that you may have FaceTime on iPhone, but if you have an Android phone, you can't connect through FaceTime because FaceTime is not available on Android. So I wanted to point that out, because if you know that the people you're trying to communicate with have the same type of operating system or a similar phone to you, then use the internal apps that are available, like FaceTime. I know Google Androids use something called Duo, but frankly, I have never used it. I don't know too many people that do. FaceTime is much more popular. So if you have an iPhone, you got FaceTime, and the others that you're trying to communicate with have that, then try to experiment with using that. But if you don't, here's where I'm going to help you out a little bit. Ah, here's a tip. These are my kids, my funny kids. Let me blow this up just so you can see how crazy they are. But the reason why I'm pointing this particular image out is because kids, teenagers, anyone of this younger or more youthful generation, many of them are very proficient at using their devices. So if you have someone nearby, if you have someone around you or in your community or space that you can tap into, grab them, pull them aside and say, help me set this up. Because typically they're going to be more than willing to help you set it up. Of course, keeping social distancing and safety in mind. Okay. But have them help you set it up so that you're good to go and you can use your phone. Okay. The phone is going to be the first place that we're going to focus on when we talk about apps. So I'll focus on that for the next two little tips that we give. All right. If you have questions, make sure you put them in the comments too. If there's anything that you need, let me know. But kids, youth, anybody in the generation that's probably under me will know how, typically, they'll know how and they can help you to get these things set up if you're struggling. Okay. But that's another reason why we're going to talk a little bit about what's available to you so you know what to ask for. All right. Let's switch it over to the next thing. And what I want to make sure to do is talk a little bit about Skype. So now Skype is the first tool that we're going to talk about. It's the first app. One of the things about Skype for you to know, and I want to make sure I pull my notes here so I can give you everything you need. Let's switch a couple of things there. So Skype is basically an app that you can use. It's good for making free video one-to-one or group calls. So the thing about Skype is that it's really best for you to use on a tablet or on your desktop or laptop computer. It's not, in my opinion, the best tool or best app for you to use on your mobile phone, on your smartphone, okay? So if you're struggling and you're trying to make that connection with other people who don't have a similar phone as yours, there's the second app that I'm going to share with you is probably going to be the most effective one for you to use. But Skype is useful because it will give you very good, high quality calling, including video. So if you're using this, what I would recommend, depending on what you have at home, is for you to make sure you install Skype. And it's free. Just go to skype.com. That's SKYPE, as you see on screen. Go to skype.com and install that on your computer. So you want to download that app. When you use that particular app, there's a couple of things for you to keep in mind. So first of all, again, it's best on a computer or a tablet. You can do one-on-one video calls. So you can, as long as they have Skype too, is going to be the key. You can do group calls. So there's multiple people. Your entire family may be able to get on Skype. And we used to do this, as a matter of fact, a while ago. Each of us had Skype and all of us would just join in to do a group call on Skype. Very easy to use. You simply have to know the other person's Skype name. So whenever you create a Skype account, you're going to have to set up a profile and you have to give yourself a name, a profile name. So mine, for instance, is at Coach Tanya. Excuse me. At Coach Tanya. I hope that didn't freak anybody out. I have allergies. I need to get like a big sign or a t-shirt or something. But at Coach Tanya, so the only way that other people would know to be able to connect with me is if they knew my profile name. That's one of the things that I would say is kind of a disadvantage to Skype, in my opinion, because you can't just pull up a person's Skype information by a phone number or, email. You need to know their Skype name. But it's really good quality, especially if you're using a computer or a tablet. Now, there's also another advantage to using Skype, meaning that there's a lot more features available in Skype than the second one I'm about to share with you. You can do screen and file sharing. So like sort of, I'm sharing my screen right now. You can do that inside of Skype. There's a lot of business and meeting collaboration tools that are available in Skype. And this is all for free. So you're not paying for it. You do not need to upgrade to the premium. You simply install the free version of Skype and make sure those who you're trying to communicate with have also installed Skype, and you can go. As long as you all know each other's names and you get connected once, that you don't have to go and search and try to find them again because they should show up in your Skype address book. So lots of benefits to being able to use it. But if you were to use Skype on your mobile phone and you're not connected to Wi-Fi, the thing to keep in mind is that Skype probably consumes a lot more data, a lot more information on your phone, and takes up a lot more resources than other apps. So to give you an example, I'm going to talk about WhatsApp next. So 1 minute of using WhatsApp is way cheaper on your data plan if you're using a mobile phone than if you're using Skype in that 1 minute on your mobile phone with no Wi-Fi. As long as you're connected to Wi-Fi, you're good. But if you're not, and we're going to talk a little bit about some considerations around Wi-Fi and things you need to make sure to do so that you don't lose your call. So I'll talk about that in a few minutes. But that is Skype. So I would say, again, the benefit to it is that it has high quality calls. Usually they're not going to drop. You can actually see the person clearly. You can hear them clearly, but it does consume a lot of information if you're not using Wi-Fi. Okay, I'm looking to see if I have any questions so far, and there's nothing popping up just yet. Now, for those of you who joined on and were like, hey, I'm going to find out some new information, and you've already been using apps like this is not going to be stellar information for you. This particular live stream is designed to be very basic and starter level. That was intentional because I wanted to make sure to connect this info back to my friends and family who are no to low tech. So I hope you get that. I do have other more advanced level, we'll call it level 2 and 3, live streaming tips and techniques that you can find over on my business page. But this is really more for my friends and family who are low to no tech. So that's why I'm making sure I keep this as simple as possible. And a lot of this you may already know. Okay, so next thing, WhatsApp is my next one that I want to talk about. If I can get over there, there we go. So WhatsApp has become our favorite. So I showed you the picture of me and my family, and we tend to use WhatsApp a lot to keep in touch because my husband does tend to travel internationally. We love WhatsApp as long as it's working. And what I mean by that is you can run into some issues. The call quality is not going to be as good as Skype. It can be a little wonky and you have to play with it a little bit depending on where each of you are located. But there's a couple of things that are really cool about WhatsApp. And so again, similar to Skype, WhatsApp, and it's those two words, but they're smushed together. So not two separate words. WhatsApp is an app that you can also install or download on your phone. So different from the computer and tablet that I mentioned, this is a mobile device app. So this is perfect if you're walking around with your smartphone and you want to do a video call and you have an iPhone, but your niece or whomever it is you want to talk to on the other line has an Android phone. Both of you can install WhatsApp and talk, okay, and do video calls. So the thing about WhatsApp is that it is, again, best for use on a mobile phone. You can do one-on-one video calls. I think it's better for one-on-one video calls than for group calls, to be honest with you. We find that it's easier to just do the one-on-one, okay? Especially when we're doing video. You can also do instant messages. So chat back and forth instead of doing your messenger or message system that you have in your phone. You can use this to go across different operating systems, okay? And just chat back and forth that way. You can also share files. As a matter of fact, one of the things that my husband said he liked, because I was asking the family, like, what are the things that you really like most about WhatsApp? What are some of the things you don't like? But he mentioned, hey, I like the idea that when you set up your WhatsApp, it will automatically, if you haven't changed it, will automatically store media that's been shared. So if your friends or family are sharing that new picture of their, baby that was just born, When the baby picture comes across over to your screen, it's going to automatically save to your phone unless you've changed the settings. So it